What up, what up, what up? Welcome to the Acceptable Accuracy Podcast. My name is Tyler, and I am your host. Today, Phil is actually out of town. He's on a much-needed and well-deserved vacation with his family. So, we ended up and planned out that, hey, now that I was gone for a week, it's his turn. For those who don't know, I was actually in Guyana last week, not to be confused with Ghana, but Guyana. For those who don't know, Guyana is over in South America, and it is right in between Venezuela and Brazil. And I'm going to be real with you, it was amazing. So I'm going to start things off a little differently, because usually we end it this way. We would end our podcast with dad advice. I'm actually not a dad, so I'm just going to give some advice right now. Go somewhere new. Go out of your comfort zone. This trip was transformative for me, and that's what we're actually going to talk about today, about my trip into Guyana in the perspective of a defender, a protector, and someone who conceal carries every day, and how I couldn't do that in Guyana. So I'm going to kind of give that perspective as a person, as a protector, and really just my experience, because why not? So, like I said, go somewhere new, do something uncomfortable, try it out. It might change your life. This trip to Ghana, it changed my life. It helped me more than I ever thought it could. Usually, this time of year is kind of hard for me. I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to be raw with you. April, May can be really hard for me. And going up to the trip, I didn't really feel like going. I didn't really want to. But usually my pastor, he's the one who usually does this trip. And to give some context, it is a dental medical trip. It's a dental missions trip. And we will go down with a team of dentists, hygienists, students, dental assistants, and maybe even other pastors, and just church members that would go down, and they would go on this event to go to the Guyanese and perform dental work. And a few months ago, my pastor, he asked me, he said, "Hey, Tyler, I'm unable to go on this trip. Why don't you go? You're one of the pastors on staff. Why don't you go ahead instead?" And for me, I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I'll do it. And actually, it was not even 3 months. It was like probably 6 months ago. It was a long time ago. And as it kind of got closer, the more I was like, man, I don't know if I really want to go. I was very selfish with my reasons, and I didn't really want to go. But I'm so glad I did. And it's just really cool because by the end of it, we had 455 patients who got some dental work, whether it was cleaning, tooth extractions, root canals, sealants, radiology stuff, and also 35 people came to know Jesus as their Savior. Acceptable Accuracy is not a Christian podcast by any means, but I'm a devout Christian. I'm a pastor. That's pretty obvious. So I'm going to be talking about God a lot, Jesus a lot during this podcast, or at least maybe here and there. So if you don't want to listen, that's on you, and that's perfectly fine. But for those who are going to be staying, I thank you for listening to us. Thanks for even being a part of this journey with us, as this has been a fun hobby for us. It's been an amazing time where we get to share our experience, grow our network, and continue to make an impact as Acceptable Accuracy, because I feel like we live in a world where there's so much anxiety and so much debilitating perfectionism. And because of that, people don't want to move forward. They don't want to do hard things. They don't want to try things new because they're afraid of failing. But failure is a part of life. Mistakes are a part of life. My dad would love to say all the time to me growing up, Tyler, experience is a summation of all of your mistakes. So, all that to say of acceptable accuracy, it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, today, oh man, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but today we actually had our USPSA match for the month of May, and it was awesome. It was probably the best match. At least the first 90% of it, the first 80 to 90% of it was probably the best match I've ever had in my life. And I think a part of it was because I went on this trip. I had so much mental clarity and I just let go. There are some things in my life that I knew I needed to let go, and I finally did on this trip. And it was like a burden, a weight was just gone. And it was just so healthy for me, for myself mentally and spiritually. And because of that, even Philip was saying how he noticed a difference. He noticed that he got to see, he's like, man, you were just light today. Not as heavy, not as stressed, not as in my mind. And it was just really cool. And kind of to talk about how in USPSA, it was awesome. Everything just clicked. It felt like I was just floating and flying. This was probably some of the fastest and most accurate I've ever been. Now, I'm not saying I'm not the best shooter. Even to this day, I'm still an unclassified shooter because, well, I went from carry optics to limited optics because hashtag I wanted a magwell. And it was really cool to do that and just being able to shoot in probably the more B to A class shooting. It was just awesome. Even there's a guy in our squad, Kyle, who's usually in the top 5 of the whole match at our club at South Kent Sportsman's Club. There was one stage where I did beat him, so shout out to you, Kyle. But he beat me in every other stage, but I got one, and it was just so cool to do that. How having that mental clarity, having that confidence, and just going and shooting, it was just so cool. But unfortunately, at the very last stage, I was planning out my shoot. I was going, and as I was going, this stage where you actually had to go not downrange but front. I can't remember what it was, but basically you're facing away from downrange, so you're opposite, and then you turn around, you draw and load your gun, and then you fire. There are 2 targets. Well, there's actually 4 targets, 2 on your left, 2 on your right, and you're in this small red box. You fire, and then afterwards you would move forward, and now there's a bunch of other targets around. When I was planning the stage, I was going to do the 4 targets, move up to the next shooting area, and actually go to the far left corner in order to hit all of my shots. As I got closer, I decided not to do that because I realized that I needed to do a reload. So I would do the 4 shots. I would go up to the next shooting area, and then take 2 shots, or 4 shots really, of 2 targets on my right, and then move to the far corner so I can reload. This way I'm not wasting any movement. And unfortunately, when I got to the next shooting area, I went to shoot my targets. I had an ND. I had a negligent discharge, because for some reason, I was moving so fast to where my brain and my body didn't make a connection to where I shot over the berm. Oh, I shot over the side berm and it hit the other berm on the other side. So thankfully, no one was hurt. Things were okay. Things were still safe, but I had ND and I got DQ'd. I went from probably one of the best stages of my life where I probably would have made top 15, maybe even top 10 for them. Looking at kind of when I was comparing everyone else on my squad scores and their rankings, maybe not top 10. I probably would have made somewhere between 13 to 15 probably, but even then, top 15. And it was crazy, man. It was frustrating. It was very frustrating to me. But all that to say, it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. I don't do this professionally. I do USPSA for fun. Competition shooting is a recent hobby of mine that has become a lot more fun to me. I really enjoyed it. When I first started USPSA, I kind of begrudgingly did it to join Philip, but now I genuinely enjoy it because of the community that has built, as Philip probably has talked about. I know he's talked about how the importance of building that firearms community, that two-way community, that tribe, that brotherhood that you get to make. And it's just so important to do that. It's so important to build that connection, to surround yourself with brothers. And if you're a female, sisters and brothers, like either way, like we need relationships, we need connection. And that's where, man, it's okay to make mistakes, man. I'm giving you permission right now. It's okay to make mistakes. So, all that to say, I have no idea how I got into that tangent. I guess it's pretty fresh in my mind because I did just do this match USPSA literally just a few hours ago, and it was disappointing. It was frustrating, especially going to see my scores and like I was for my hip factors, I was consistently in the fives and the sixes, and then just seeing the DQ to where like I basically got zeros on everything because I got DQ'd, and man, that sucks. But it's okay because I got to learn from it. So when you make mistakes, learn from it. That was just so awesome being surrounded by my buddies, all of them saying, "Hey man, it's not a question of if but when," because all of them have been DQ'd before too. It happens. It's life. Move on. It's all right. It sucks. Embrace that suck and just move on. So all that to say, make mistakes. Learn from it. It's all right. So now, kind of going back to my trip to Guyana, how I guess with Guyana, it's another country. Unfortunately, I don't have my Second Amendment rights there. I mean, yes, I have a God-given right to protect myself, but bringing a gun to another country probably isn't the best idea. And I've flown with guns before, no issues. Actually, I find it extremely easy. And in fact, we can probably do another episode in the future of traveling with firearms, whether you're driving or flying to another state. I think that'd be really cool because I know not a lot of people do it or have ever done it. Or I remember my first time doing it. It was scary. It was confusing. So we can probably do another episode. So you hear that, Philip, when you listen to this? Let's do an episode on traveling with firearms. I think that'd be a great idea because I know you're driving right now. Thankfully, you're driving through free states. So, quote unquote, free states. So this way, it's not that big of a deal. But I know when driving through places like Chicago, or I'm sorry, Illinois, yeah, Chicago, like there are some questions that need to be answered. Like, all right, how can I carry while I drive? How can I carry? How does it need to be? Because Illinois and Michigan are two completely different states. Even going to places like Tennessee or Kentucky, like what does that look like? Because here in Michigan, you have a duty to inform. Other states, you don't have to do that. So either way, traveling firearms, I think that'd be really cool. But going back to my trip to Guyana, like of course, with me going to another country without my gun, without my piece, was slightly concerning. And I'm not gonna not travel because I can't bring my gun because like that's silly. I can't bring my firearm everywhere with me because I love seeing the world. For those who don't know, I'm originally from Hawaii, and I was just in Hawaii. Well, I guess not this last February, but the February of 23, and I was there for like 2 or 3 weeks. I can't bring my gun to Hawaii. I mean, technically I can, but then I have to register it with the state of Hawaii, and then it'd be a pain to have it, and I couldn't even carry it at all, and it'd be a pain to bring it back to Michigan anyway. So it's just not worth it. Or going to places like Japan or Australia, Africa. These are Israel. I would love to see the world. I've been to a handful of countries, and it's just so cool to be able to see all of these different cultures and embrace it and learn it and really open your eyes and your perspective, especially here in Michigan, where I have friends who've never left the state, who've never left the country, who've never flown, which is fine. That's no big deal. That's fine. That's on them. That's their decision to make. But God created this world, and being able to experience his creation, being able to experience outside of your normal life is so amazing. It's eye-opening. I've been to third world countries. My mom is from Vietnam. I've been to Vietnam, and Guyana actually reminded me a lot of Vietnam. And actually, it was kind of a mix of like Vietnam and like the poor areas of Hawaii. So it was kind of interesting. But going back with the travel, how going to Guyana, it did concern me a little bit because I carry every single day. I've had people ask me, Tyler, how often do you carry? And I say every single day. Like, I pretty much almost, if I can do it, I carry it. I carry at work. I don't carry at home. I have it, but it's near me at home. I carry at the stores. I carry out and about. I carry everywhere. I carry at the appendix position. I use a tier 1 concealed holster with, and I carry a shadow set. My shadow system's MR920 Warpwood everywhere I go, because I believe that God has called me to be a defender, to be a protector. But I also understand that it's the Indian and not the arrow. It's not, I, just because I don't have a gun, just because I don't have a firearm doesn't mean I'm no longer a protector. So that's where, even with me going to travel, like we went from Grand Rapids and flew to New York to JFK Airport, and then we flew to Guyana, and that's where, I'll be honest with you, like I was on the airplane on the way to New York, and I'm like watching, I'm like I've personally never done jujitsu, but I was watching like hand to hand stuff, like jujitsu stuff. So this way, at least I have I was kind of refreshing myself of things that I've watched. Like, all right, so at least I'm not completely defenseless. And of course, I have like little things, like I have my glass breaker pen, I have my flashlight. So at least at least I'm not completely defenseless. And of course, I've got my fists, my legs. I can kick, I can punch if I really needed to. I could take somebody down. And so that's where it's being vigilant. So not having a gun, like, all right, cool, it sucks. I didn't have it, but that's okay. So now it's going to the airport, and a small part of me was somewhat relieved, I guess, probably because you can't live in yellow and orange your whole life. It was kind of refreshing to be like, you know what, I'm going to be a defender, but I don't have my gun on me right now. I felt like I kind of relaxed a little bit, and that might be a little counterintuitive of what I just said just a couple minutes ago, but it was weird. My body was like, hey, it's okay. It's okay. And I guess maybe it was my faith where I'm like, God's like, hey, I'm going to protect you. You'll be safe. It's going to be okay. Because even for me, like, I was at the airport, and then I was in Guyana, but I was in the bus, and we drove straight to the church where we're at, and it had gates all around. It was locked up, and we're safe. And apparently there were a group of people basically we had like security the whole time. I didn't know that, which is actually kind of cool. I probably should have known that, but I just didn't know. I mean, I'm going to bed, I'm sleeping, I'm hanging out with the dental team. And it was like really cool to kind of maybe take a step back a little bit. And I think that's also why it's so important to get out of your normal life once in a while, because you're trying out something new. And that's where, for me, going on this trip, I felt like I could be me. I could be me. I felt like the real Tyler came out, how I could just hang out, have fun, laugh. I wanted to pull some teeth, but unfortunately it just didn't work out for me. And I got to hang out with the dental team. I got to really minister to people and love on people, and that was just so cool. But kind of going back, like, now I'm in New York. I'm at the New York airport, and I'm just hanging out there. And I'll be honest, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. Actually, I'm sorry. We flew out of Detroit, so we actually drove from Grand Rapids to Detroit on a bus. We left Grand Rapids at 3 a.m. So I actually didn't sleep that night because I'm a night owl. So I was like, I'd rather just stay awake an extra few hours, and then take a nap on the bus, and then sleep at the airports and on the airplane, then try to go to bed and then wake up. So that's what I did. We went from Grand Rapids to Detroit, got in the airport, and kind of just hung out. And then we flew to New York, and I was smoked. I was tired. So I'll be honest, I found a spot on the ground and I took a nap. Which, is that very defenderish of me? Not really. That's okay. Once again, you can't be at yellow and red at all times. It's impossible. You'll burn out. It's okay to get rest. You don't always have to be the macho protector. You can't always do that. Sometimes you have to rely on your team and those around you, because I know there are other people that kind of just stayed up. There are other guys on the team that I trust. I'm like, yeah, they'll make sure that we stay safe. And once again, we're in the airport, so it's fine. So then, of course, we go from the airport, go from there and get to Guyana. And of course, I'm still kind of paying attention, keeping an eye on things, like looking around, making sure, like, of course, like, because even in Guyana, like, we're seeing drunk people, we're seeing people who are high, like nowhere is 100% safe, because unfortunately the world is messed up. It's corrupt. There are bad people out there. So yeah, of course I kept an eye out, but eventually as we got to the church, that's where I'm like, as I as I was there for the next few days, it was just, yeah, I kind of let my guard down a little bit, because yeah, it was a safe place, and it was consistent. And of course, like, once again, we had security around. Unfortunately, no one really had guns, but there was actually, I mean, he didn't carry it around everywhere, but there were guys with machetes. It was great. Like, I remember when I got there, there were three things that I asked for, because after talking to some of the locals, there are three things I asked. I wanted a fresh coconut, I wanted a sugar cane, and I wanted to go caiman hunting. I don't know how or why, but it just happened by day 2, because I was hearing it from all the locals. Like, those are three things you need. So because of that, like, I remember just seeing the locals with a machete just opening up a coconut, chopping up the sugar cane. It was just cool. Like, yeah, this massive, like, 22-inch machete, and I'm just laughing. I think it's amazing just to see that. I'm like, hey, if I really need to, like, hey, if something bad happens, give me that machete and let's go. I actually did end up buying a machete myself. What am I going to do with it? I have no idea, but I have it now, and I think it's hilarious. So we've got that, and once again, I'm in a place where it's like, okay, it's been deemed safe. There's security, there are gates around, and I really got to just hang out with people. I got to minister to people. I got to care about these people. And I know this isn't necessarily like a firearms thing, but I just really want to share it, how I really got to just sit in the mud with people. Whether it was the Guyanese locals or the dental team, how there's just so many hurting people. And you never know the impact that you can make of just listening. I just mentioned talking about sitting in the mud. It's a concept that's taught by Simon Sinek, where when you're with people who are hurting, you don't need to know all of the answers. In fact, sometimes it's better not to talk, but actually just go in the mud, go in the suck, embrace the pain with the person. And I got to do that with so many people while I was out there. That was awesome. There's so many hurting people. So I encourage you, if you have a friend that maybe you haven't chatted in a while, give them a call. Give them a text like, hey man, you want to hang out? Or maybe, yeah, just like, hey, you want to come over? Let's watch a movie, or let's go hang out. Let's go bowling. Let's go to the mall. Let's go get lunch. Let's go get coffee. Let's just chat, or just see how they're doing, man. And it was just really cool that I was able to do that while I was out in Guyana. Hear so many stories of life change, stories of how people have overcome their pain and their anxieties and their suffering, or how I was able to help them through that and guide them and show them what Jesus did for them, and how they can take their power back, how they don't need to give away their power to people, how the chronic people pleasing, the anxiety, the perfectionism, like, it's like, look, you don't need that. Really, you don't need to do anything. But it was just cool. It was really cool to be able to do that. And then kind of fast forwarding how once we were done with the trip, once we were done with the actual dental work, it was actually really funny how, like I mentioned earlier about caiman hunting, how while we were done with everything, and on the last day, on our second to last day, Friday, we had a half day. So most of the days we're working from 6 a.m. or at least I was from. I started at 6 a.m. and then we'd go until 7, 8, 9, sometimes 10 p.m. Then we would have a Bible study. Eat dinner, have a Bible study, shower, and then start all over again. We did that for a whole week. But on the Friday, we'd had a half day where we started at 6 and we're done. It was probably around like 2 or 3. We're supposed to be done more like noon or 1, but we're probably done around 2 or 3. And we went caiman hunting. And it was really cool how, as I got there, as we're kind of prepping for it, as we're packing, one of our guides, one of our friends there, he had a shotgun. And it was a Mossberg Maverick something. It wasn't an 88, but it was just hilarious to me how I saw it and I knew exactly what it was. I had an idea of what it was and I knew how to use it. I was like, hey, can I see that? I grabbed, because he kind of like snuck around. He saw me. He's like, hey, look at this. And he showed me it was a 12 gauge slug. I'm like, nice. I'm like, is your gun here? He's like, yeah, it's in the bus. I'm like, can I see? He's like, yeah. So I went and grabbed it. And of course I'm looking at it, I'm manipulating it. I'm like racking it, making sure like things work. And it was just really cool to see it. And unfortunately, of course, for me, I'm a USPSA shooter. I'm a carbine shooter. I hate shotguns. I just can't. Okay. I'm not the biggest fan of shotguns. That's a better way to put it, because I know there are shotgun people out there. I respect you. There are hunters out there. I get it. I'm just not good with it, and that's probably why I don't like it. My first gun is a Mossberg Maverick 88, and that's what I got. That's what was recommended to me, and it works. It's okay, but I'm just significantly better with my shadow systems and, of course, my AR-15. So I see it, and of course, there's no dot on it. There's no bead on it, so it's just a completely flat rail, and I'm like, what are we going to do with this? And I'm like, all right, whatever. And for me, but at the same time, even though I'm not a big shotgun fan, I was really excited because I haven't had my gun in a week. And it was really cool for me, the fact that I am about to shoot a gun in a foreign country. I was excited to go caiman hunting. I've actually never gone hunting in my life. Yeah, sorry about that, hunters. I want to, I will. But it was really cool to be able to be like, yeah, I'm about to go hunting. I'm about to shoot a shotgun in a foreign country. And of course, we get there, we go on a bus. We're actually riding on top of a bus, which was really cool. We're going in the country and we're driving and we see these lakes and we're driving around, and I was like, all right, stop. And then we get out. It's like a nice river. It's like a creek, and we're getting down and they're like, it's right there. I'm like, what? Like, they're pointing at the caimans and they're like, do you not see the yellow eyes? Like, it's far. It's probably like, I mean, it's not super far. It's probably like 25, 30 yards away. But these tiny little eyes just sticking out of the water. Like, do you see it? I'm like, how do you see that? I can't see anything. And I'm like, dude. And eventually we kind of move around. It starts moving. It's like, oh, there it is. I see it now. So, of course, I get the shotgun ready. I'm lining it up and I'm ready. I'm like, pow! Nothing. I missed. And then we find another one, and I'm lining up, I'm getting ready, it's like, bang! Still nothing. And I kept shooting high, and I was so frustrated. They let me go 4 times before I'm like, all right, someone else can just do this. So another girl, she got to shoot, and she missed. And then Andy, who is a guy who's the pastor in charge, he's a Guyanese local who went to America, got his PhD in Bible, and then he came back and kind of started this. God has used him to start 16 churches in Guyana, which is amazing. And he got the shotgun, he lined it up, and bam! First shot killed the caiman. And these guys, these locals, actually jump in the river and they swim over to the other side of the river, and they have like this pitchfork looking thing, and they try to stab it to try to get out of the water, but unfortunately it sunk. So that stunk. So then we kind of just kept on going. And then another one of our guys, one of the dental students, he lined it up. It was a massive caiman. And he went and shot it and bang! And then unfortunately fell in the water. Once again, they swam and still couldn't get it. And we kept doing it. We lost so many caimans. It was so frustrating. And eventually another dental student, he went and he shot it. He missed his first go, but the second shot, it's like bang! He got it. He killed the caiman. And it was still in land, and the guys went across. They got the caiman, they brought it over. It was probably like a 5-foot long caiman, and I'm carrying it. It's actually heavier than I was expecting. I don't know exactly how heavy it was. It was probably like I don't know, probably 50 to 70 pounds. I have no idea. But I just remember kind of carrying in, like, we're all taking pictures and everyone's like, yeah, of course. They went and go ahead and they kind of prep, they slit the throat, make sure it was dead, of course. And it's dead and we're carrying it. It's crazy. I'm picking it up. And of course, even though the caiman's dead, the hind legs kept scratching me. It kept moving because of the nerves. And I'm just like, stop it! Stop it! Stop scratching me! You're dead! Stop it! I'm like, stop it! So I'm just having fun with it. And I'm like, yeah, we've got the caiman. They chop off the tail and they're going to prep it for food. And of course, we have that. And then we're driving and we stop again. And there's this iguana on like this 30-foot tree. And one of our guides, it's his shotgun, of course. He gets it, he lines up and bam, shoots it. Iguana falls and they get it. I'm like, what the heck, man? And of course, for me, I'm a competitive shooter and I'm a competitive person. And I am just knocking myself over. I am so mad at myself. I'm happy for everyone else for making their shots, but I'm so frustrated. I mean, of course, like all the guys were laughing, having fun. One of the pastors like, because I showed him, because I have an Insta360 Go 3 camera, and I would record myself shooting in first person point of view. And a lot of them are like, that's a video game. They're like, nope, that's not real. That's a video game. That doesn't even look real. Which, I mean, it kind of does look like a video game. And it was just hilarious how one of the pastors, he looks like, I told you it's a video game. And I'm like, ah! I started chasing him. I was like, ah, you jerk. You stink, man. So, no, it was just really cool to be able to go caiman hunting, to be able to go to another country, to minister to people, to love on people. And it was just awesome. And of course, I got my machete. I have it back here in America now. Once again, what am I going to do with it? I have no idea. But all I know is I got to practice more shotguns because I'm actually about to do the Zombie Invitational in the fall. And I need to be able to use a shotgun. And so I should probably practice more. And I should probably get my shotgun ready because I would like to get a dot on it. And more importantly, I would like to get a different stock on it because that stock's just so far out. But all that to say, I don't really have much more to talk about. Like I said, like the advice I had at the beginning, do something new. Go out of your comfort zone. It just might change your life. Thanks for listening to the Acceptable Accuracy Podcast. Have a great day. Bye.